Okay. So Anna is going to speak. Anna's a graduate of Flatiron and had a unique, interesting journey. So I will turn things over to Anna.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank all of you for coming and listening to the things I have to say. It feels nice to be able to share. And my biggest hope is that what I experienced and some of what I learned can be helpful and to mostly give hope, because I know the pit of despair so well. And I want to be able to say, you know, like, this is possible, it's doable. So I am going to share my screen with you and show you just a little slideshow to help keep me on track. And please feel free to interrupt at any time. It is not a problem. Ask questions, all of the above. So during my job hunt, I talked to a lot of people. I did a lot of things. And my biggest takeaway is that everyone's job hunt is different. No one I talked to did the same thing to get their first tech job. And that was a little exciting to me to know that I didn't have to follow someone else's process, but also a little debilitating, feeling like, oh my gosh, then what do I do? So what I'm about to share is less about my exact process and more about some mindsets and myths that I had to overcome during it. And hopefully, again, this is transferable and helpful to all of you guys in those same shoes. So before I dig in, a little background on me, and this is important because I want you to know I am a very regular person. I am so regular. I'm a former educator. I taught tiny humans, kindergarten, first grade for about a decade. Did a lot of things before getting into an ed tech company in customer service, and that is where I learned what coding was, and I thought it was magical. I still didn't know how to code, but I went after it, and I thought, I want to learn how to do that. And I do love to learn. I've changed careers so many times that curiosity is definitely in me, and that's where Flatiron came in. So in November, I went to Flatiron, and starting Flatiron, I knew a little bit of HTML and CSS. I had about a month of free code camp, and that was it. I thought Ruby was a gem. I did not know it was a programming language. I went in very cold turkey. And second thing, too many things. The last thing I'll say about my intro, you know how after you graduate, you have a mock technical interview with Skilled. I failed mine, failed it. So I just need you to know I'm a regular person. My coding skills are very low. And you know, I got a job. And this is what I learned. Okay, intro. First myth, the job hunt will be linear. This is what I thought going into the job hunt. I thought it would look like this. Find a job, submit my application, either get rejected or go through the interview process and then rinse and repeat. And I just thought it would look like that. Find job, apply, get rejected, and or interview. And it turns out it did not go like that. And I'm not certain that anyone's job hunt is linear. If it is, you tell me, you let me know. But what actually ended up happening looks exactly like this. My job hunt zigged and zagged. It went left, it went right, it went backwards, it went forwards. It felt wild. And at the time, it felt like I am not going to my goal. What the heck am I doing? But here's what I will say. All of the little things that take your attention away from that main goal, they're not all bad. Yes, some might be big distractions, but others, they may be worth pursuing to see where they go. And I wanted to share one specific example of what happened. When I was first job hunting, I looked at any free resource I could get my hand on, a webinar, a document, talking to somebody. If it was free, I was like, yep. And I happened upon a webinar that went over resumes for bootcamp grads. And yes, like I had revised my resume with Ben right here, but I was like, free resource, I'm in. I went to it. It was hosted by a coach and software engineer. So again, like this person appealed to me because he was doing the job I wanted to do. So after that webinar, I sent him a quick follow-up email, which is just something I'm used to doing. And I thanked him and I gave him maybe 3 specific takeaways. And I said, I learned these 3 things. I'm taking them with me. This was incredible. Thank you so much for offering this and for offering it for free. He wrote me back that same day and was like, thank you so much. I rarely get feedback like this. Like, can I ask you a few more questions? A couple weeks later, we entered into a working relationship. He saw my writing skills as an asset. He did not have that. He had tips, resources, knowledge about being a software engineer. I didn't have that. So we exchanged our skills and we said, I'm going to do the writing. You're going to do you're a software engineer. And we traded skills. And that relationship is still going on. We're still doing the thing right now. The people I met through him, the things I learned, the opportunities to do mock interviews, it all came from this one opportunity, a free resource, an email, and I was in this thing. So I share that to say you never know where something is going. And sometimes you can feel like, oh, it's a dead end. And other times you think, I'm not really sure. So take those opportunities. The path will not be linear. Okay, moving on. Oh my goodness, I cannot tell you. This myth, the it's just luck myth, this is something I would hear from real developers, real software engineers. I talked to a lot of them for informational interviews, people I'd met on LinkedIn, friends of friends, and 9 times out of 10, they would tell me about how they got their first job and I got lucky, it was just luck. And I can't tell you how mad that made me because I just thought, but it wasn't. You didn't just get a job plopped down in your lap. I don't believe it. Plus also you have skills. You had to do something to apply to get through that technical interview. That was not luck. So it just killed me inside when people said that because I thought that's not replicable and that is not true. That is a myth, such a myth. So in case if this is too small, I'm just going to read it. A plan you have been working on for a long time is beginning to take shape. It is not luck that gets you to that finish line. It is a plan. It is hard work. It's blood, sweat, and tears, but it is not luck. It was important for me to understand this because calling it luck felt like, well, I'm not a lucky person, so I'm never going to get that break. And that's not actionable. But saying, if I have a plan to get me to software engineer land and I work at it every day, then I will achieve that goal. I don't know when, but I'll do it. And that helped. And one thing to break this down that I found very effective, on a daily basis, I would set a win. So I could tell myself at the end of today, a win is if I've coded for an hour on this project or whatever. Because otherwise time would pass and I would just feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not accomplishing anything. My applications aren't going anywhere. Terrible, horrible, awful. But setting a win and saying I did that felt like progress and movement. So yes to plans. Okay, this is a big one. A myth. Imposter syndrome is my companion. I'm pretty sure you've all heard of imposter syndrome. I'm pretty sure you've all felt it. If you haven't, talk to me after because I want to know your ways. But imposter syndrome, I came to know it as being my companion. It would always be there. It would always be on my shoulder. People who were already software engineers would say this and they'd say, yeah, I feel imposter syndrome. I've been doing this for 10 years and I still feel it. And I just resigned myself to feeling this. And it got to a point in my job hunt, probably about a month and a half in, where imposter syndrome started to feel crippling. And it would deter me, it would stop me from doing things. And I just thought, this isn't working. It doesn't feel good. And case in point, I would submit an application and for a job. And if it came back that they didn't want me and I was rejected, I would be so disappointed and gosh, I'm never going to get anywhere. And then on the flip side, if I got a response and someone was like, yeah, you're interesting, let's interview you, I would feel so sick to my stomach and freaked out because they had accepted me. And I thought, this is not a way to live because I'm not happy with either response. And that's not good. So I had a lot of community, a lot of mentors in my journey. And one of them took me aside when I had said, like, I feel sick to my stomach. I can't do this. And she said, listen, imposter syndrome isn't something that is your companion. It is something that you have to fight. This is something that you actively have to say, no, I'm not going to give in to this. So, and this is how I feel. Imposter syndrome still feels large, and I will be squashed. But what I have done and what I worked on with this mentor of mine, I created a list of things that can pull me out of imposter syndrome mode. And I have it right here. It's a literal list of 8 things that I can think of to tell me that I have done this, I have experience. This isn't just about a company wanting to interview me to see if I'm the right fit, but I'm interviewing them to see if I'm the right fit. And all of these different things that pull me out of this terrible, I'm being squashed, I'm crippled by this feeling, and take me to this land of, I can do this. I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep coding. This is the job I want, etc. So a big recommendation, especially if any of this resonates with you and imposter syndrome feels pretty bad, is to write stuff down like that, your accomplishments, your mindsets, anything to pull you out of it and pull you back into, let me be productive here. Very important for me. Okay, last and final myth. This was an interesting one. Ben and I were talking about this, and he kind of pulled it out because it's not something that I would have attributed to my job hunt, because it is a mindset that I carry throughout life. It is something I've had for a long time, and I'm so glad he pulled it out. I think it's important. This feeling of I am owed. And what I mean by that is, like, okay, I'm a Flatiron grad. I put in the work. I am owed a job. Like, the world owes me a job. I will be hired. Or I reached out to this person and I want to talk to him. I'm owed this conversation and this opportunity because I'm reaching out. That kind of thing. And I don't know if you feel that, or if it's in you, it might not be. But my tendency is a bit the opposite. I feel I am owed nothing in this world. Everything that I want, I will work for, and I will put in the time and the effort, because it is a gift. If someone says yes to a conversation, I feel grateful, genuinely grateful that somebody would take the time. If an application is accepted and a company is like, hey, we want to interview you, once I'm over my imposter syndrome, I feel so grateful. You are taking a chance on me. Oh, it's a gift. And I feel that, like, to my bones. And what happens and why, like, and Ben is the one who pulled this out and said, this is an asset. What happens when you feel grateful and when you feel that you are not owed, but in fact you've been given something, is it comes through in your communication. And I would do that through messaging, or I would just straight out tell somebody in an interview, thank you so much for taking the time to have me. It means so much. And people love that. Oh, they love it. They respond so well because they feel that they have given you something on their own accord. It's not a favor. It's not a hard ask. It's, well, they're giving you something and now they feel really good and they want to keep helping you. And it's a relationship builder and a mindset. And that carried me very far. So I will wrap up to say those mindsets were shifts as I went through the process, and things that helped me stay optimistic. Like I said in the beginning, I hit so many pits of despair, and the imposter syndrome got me so good. And ultimately it came back to those mindsets and being able to say, like, that goal of becoming a software engineer, I still want it. It's hard work, but I'm going to go get it. And so tomorrow I start my first day at this company as an associate software engineer. And I'm still, like, I can't actually believe it's happening. And I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but it's happening. And I'm going to put my best foot forward and all of that jazz. So let me stop here. And I would love to hear questions, comments, anything. I am here. I'm here for you. Yes.
Excellent. I'll jump in with one quick thing and then I'll open it for questions. But I do want to point out one more myth. I think many people seeing you, Anna, would think that maybe it was charisma and all those kind of things that got you there. Do you feel comfortable sharing what happened on our Mark cultural interview? How that went, or is it okay if you share that? Or
Oh heavens, Ben made me sweat. That is what happened. I am someone who looks to the other person for feedback. Like I want to know through their face, do they like what I'm saying? Am I cheerful enough? And I'm a people pleaser. So that's where that comes
it
from.
wasn't just our like. It was also that first one with Is it okay if we bring this up?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, okay. It was not Fidelity. It was a different bank. Whatever. But
No, it was
regardless,
Fidelity. You're right.
Fidelity. Okay, um, bombed those cultural interviews. Is that okay?
Bombed big time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just want to also put this out there. Like, many of you guys did really well in your first cultural interviews. I just want to put that myth out there that Anna, because right now this presentation was awesome, obviously, and very charismatic, all those kind of things. But interviewing skills, like we got there eventually,
Yeah.
and Anna has amazing interviewing skills. But like, I just want to take away that myth that like, oh, it was probably just interviewing. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to.
that is so true. I'm glad you brought that up because I
Yep.
did, it was another thing I had to work at, and Ben's coaching, like he was a tough interviewer and I learned quite a bit during that interview of where I had to go to grow. And I did work on that. It's just like any other skill. Yes, true.
Awesome. Any questions? And if not, I've got more topics to bring up, but I yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that you didn't want to say things that you felt worked or didn't work, but I'm still kind of curious to hear that a little bit.
Certainly. Oh, my pleasure. So you know how everyone says network, 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 get referrals, talk to people, all of that. I did network, but my networking had a bit of a spin because I never felt completely comfortable networking to get a referral or asking for one. It just wasn't in my DNA to do that. I know it can work very well. For me, my networking was all about talking to people who were already in the place I wanted to be. And I did that selfishly for motivation and to try to glean any tips I could for how they got there. And those conversations, I will say none of them led me to the job that I ended up getting. I did not, like, that was a cold application from a job board. Like that's not, there was no referral. But those conversations I had they helped me keep going because I heard from people how much they liked what they were doing. Besides when they would say they got lucky, they would ultimately give me a tip or something to do. So that's like a big recommendation. Talk to the people, even if it's not for a referral, talk to the people who already are where you are. Another thing that happened out of conversations, I ended up with an unexpected mentor. I had a lot of mentors and people who were in my corner, and they kept popping up through those conversations. Somebody would follow up with me, like, how's it going? Hey, I thought of something else. And I was always like, whoa, I felt so incredibly grateful that somebody would tell me like the secret sauce. But a few of those things, like your code and your portfolio, they speak for you when you're not around. And that was something a lot of developers told me. Your readmes and having them be engaging and clear, that is so important. Developers who are already in the industry, like they said that. People had different advice around like, hey, dip into testing, learn this language. I kind of ignored all of it because I just thought I just need to get good at JavaScript and have that be my thing. But I would get a lot of advice on what to learn next or what to dabble in. Besides networking, I started to focus in on front end versus full stack, back end, everything. I just said front end, it's the way. And I also said JavaScript. And I did not focus on React or any other libraries, frameworks. I just did JavaScript. And every day I would code and my goal was always an hour. Sometimes it was a half an hour in JavaScript. And I I tried to get comfortable with the thing that I knew. And my breadth is very small, but my depth is good. That like failed mock interview with JavaScript, like I didn't fail the real one. So that told me I'm learning by doing this again and again and again. Okay, so those are two big things. Narrow focus, talking to people, and honestly, keeping in the back of your head, you don't know when you're going to get to your goal. Like when this Aware 3 job was finalized, like after I passed that technical interview and I got the offer, I had 4 other interviews lined up. Like I was going forward with other companies. And Ben put it best. He said, it's like we had to, like we were on a train and it's like we had to backtrack to accept the offer because we had more opportunities and more ways to go. So I don't know, it's so easy to say, this is going nowhere, I'm never going to get anywhere. But then all of a sudden something might happen or someone might get back in touch with you. So that mindset of like, keep the optimism. It's really, really hard to do that. I know because I felt it too, but I know that with what you have, being a Flatiron grad and having that goal, like I'm going to go after my goal. If you can do that, I truly believe that you'll get there. Because I'm just like, heck, if I could do it, like, and I like not technical background, career switcher. I had half a day to work, like it was COVID-19. My child was home, like my time was limited, like all of those things. I just feel like, heck, if I could do it, like anybody can do it. It is so possible. You just have to believe it and keep going.
And I would add on this thing too, that those 4 other interviews they had coming up, like this would have just kept snowballing. Like there would have been a lot of job offers, in my opinion, coming up. So yes, so this was not just a one-off lucky thing. This was just the first one.
Yeah,
so,
and I really think like not overcoming, but getting a grasp on that imposter syndrome and having that stop being my barrier. I just went whole hog. And I was like, apply. I don't care if I get rejected. And then someone got back to me. And before I was like, I'll apply to these 2 jobs. Don't write back. So that did change things for me.
Okay. Awesome. Any other questions? And you're okay if people message you questions afterwards, and maybe if we collect enough of them, we'll put another like Q&A out there where you just answer some questions. I know it's kind of hard on the spot to think, because oftentimes questions can be very individual, and I don't know. So so Anna, thank you so much for being accessible. Does anybody have any other questions you want to bring out at the moment? There's a couple of things I think I might bring out if not, but I just want to make sure we have any types of.
I have a question, and sorry for my camera not being on. I'm on the move and listening to you right now. But I just wanted to ask, you were talking about like maintaining that positive attitude, and having gone through many job hunts before, I always find that kind of a challenge. What were some of your strategies for just staying positive and motivated while you were doing this?
Oh, that's a really good question. I feel like I had to look for that and figure that out continually, because what worked one day as my motivation might not work the next. But ultimately what I kept coming back to, when things started to feel hard, because when things feel hard, you just want to throw in the towel and be done with it. But I kept reminding myself, why did I quit my job in October and attend Flatiron, spend all this money to learn a new skill, to be uncomfortable? Like, why did I do this in the first place? And for me, it was very much my family, the future of my child, being financially secure, getting to work remotely, like all of these things that I had even wanted to do software engineering for in the first place, the learning, the curiosity. And I kept reminding myself of those reasons. And like I said, not every day did this work. Some days I'd be like, yeah, well, I was making money before and I'm not now. Deter. But I do think it helps to go back and say, do I still want to be a software engineer? Yes. Okay. What do I need to do that? And just ground yourself again in your why. And I think that can be very powerful. And then on a regular basis, I am like chatting with Ben every Monday. That kept me going because he never let me get to a place of giving up or feeling too down. And like I said, I had a community of mentors, people on Twitter, strangers who would help. Like that community spurred me on because I knew even if I were to let myself down, and maybe that's okay, other people are now invested in my journey too. And I definitely don't want to let them down. So that community piece and accountability helped also.
Awesome. Who can come in with just one last question? Thank you, Maggie, for that question. Who can come in with like one last question? Just a quick lightning round. Okay, maybe nothing for the moment. But so, Anna, what's the best way for people to reach out with, Francesca, did you have a question?
Yeah, maybe. I'm just curious who the people are that you considered your mentors and like how you came to meet them, or yeah.
Oh, great question. Great question.
And I'm gonna give you a 30-second challenge on this one. And
Holy Pete's, all right.
But we'll have more time afterwards. But
that's a great challenge.
Yeah.
Always give me challenges.
Yeah.
All right. One of them came from my old job, Teachable. He's the CTO of the company, but he was very interested in my coding journey. Mentor. People that I met on Twitter. I had 2 people who reached out to me on Twitter, found out about my journey, asked questions. Mentors. We'd meet every couple of weeks. Then, obviously, mentor. I had people from Flatiron who I peer coded with, and I considered them mentors also. We were both giving each other something. And the person I'm working with, the working relationship, software engineer, coach, like he became a mentor via his resources. Okay, did I make it? 30 seconds?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I think more conversation. So what's the best way for people to reach out to you with more questions? How can they, get in touch with you?
Oh, wonderful. So I am on all of the Slacks, all 3 of them, the Flatiron ones. So Slack me, Anna Wijetunga, LinkedIn, you'll find me. Those are probably the 2 easiest. And I mean it when I say I'm an open book. If you ever want to chat, please get in touch. I really do mean it. I'd love to help in any way I can, or just hear your story.
Awesome. And thank you so much, not just for sharing your time, but you did some really awesome things, both in your growth in this process. And it actually, the whole group here, because I work with all you guys, like Anna has been an influence in the coaching and the conversations that we've had when it comes to mentors and follow-up and contributing, to showing your appreciation for people. Anna really innovated a lot of those, innovative was your personality, but it really brought it home. So it's a lot of the things that we work on. And also, and thanks for also being relatable, because you started, there's not a single excuse. You didn't check any of the boxes that people think they need to check. Whether it was great cultural interviews or great technical scores or a background in CS, you had none of those. So so it's, and not even having a lot of time to work on it. You didn't even have, so all those kind of things. So thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise with us. It's amazing. So everybody connect with Anna, fantastic. And thanks everyone for anything else, Anna. I'll give you the sign off if you have anything else you want to.
No, thank you again for listening to my story. I love that. I appreciate that. And I really mean it. Reach out. I would love to be there to help you in any way I can. And I know you'll make it. I truly do. I believe it.
Awesome. Good place to end. Thank you so much, Anna. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.